2 years ago today, James Gunn announced his slate for the first chapter of his DC cinematic universe. And while everything sounded amazing, the project that excited us the most was Batman the Brave and the Bold, a film starring Batman and focusing on his relationship with his biological son and the fourth Robin, Damian Wayne. We are the Hive Mind, and in this video, we're going to analyze Batman's past movies, comics, and the words of James Gunn himself to determine the 10 things that are the most important for Batman to have in this new DC cinematic universe.
Kicking off things at number 1, we have give Batman and his lore a completely comic accurate aesthetic. Being that we already know that this is going to be a universe that pulls heavily from the fantastical elements of the comics, this is the perfect opportunity to fully lean into that in terms of Batman's lore. The first thing they could do to truly bring this to life is make Gotham City a truly fantastical and immersive city. Perfect example of what I'm talking about is Tim Burton's Gotham City. Now, even though this is a pretty dated Gotham City, the fantastical element of this city is truly groundbreaking and is still one of the best Gotham cities that we have ever gotten. The city just feels like it's ripped out of a comic book. The buildings are extra gothic, there's gargoyles, there's lights everywhere. Gotham City should look like this, and it should always have its own exclusive tone and aesthetic. Another way they could truly bring this to life is by going completely comic accurate with things like Batman's Batsuit, his gear, the Batmobile, the Batcave, and the overall character designs of all of his rogues and Bat family members. Again, with this universe being truly fantastical, there's no reason as to why Batman shouldn't have a completely comic accurate Batsuit. Now, whether they decide to go with the iconic Neil Adams Batsuit or the Jim Lee Hush Batsuit, I don't care. As long as Batman has a comic accurate depiction of his suit that's not a super armored up version, it's a more sleek, simplistic design, I don't care. The color scheme could be black and gray with the yellow oval, it could be blue and gray with the yellow oval, etc, etc. I don't care. It just needs to be a simplistic design of the Batsuit that is ripped from the comics. As far as Batman's gear, they should do the same thing. With the Batmobile, it shouldn't be this super armored up tank like how Christopher Nolan had the Tumbler. And I'm not necessarily saying the Batmobile in this universe can't have armor, because it should have armor. This is a fantastical Batman who deals with superhuman threats, but it should still strive to be a car at its core. And it should be a car that we know for a fact is Batman's. There should be bat symbols on the tires. There could be a bat logo on the front. Like, they just need to make sure that it looks like a true adaptation of a Batmobile, and not a Batmobile if it was in real life. It should be a Batmobile from the comics, just in real life. And as far as the Batcave, we need the whole 9. We need Batsuits on display, we need the T-Rex, we need the giant penny, we need the giant Joker card. Everything should be on display in the Batcave. Like I said earlier, this doesn't just end with Batman. This should go all across his universe with his rogues and his Bat family members. Nightwing should have a comic accurate suit. Bane should look comic accurate. Deathstroke should look comic accurate. Riddler, Joker, etc, etc. All of these villains should have their own unique comic accurate flair. And all of this will truly help to immerse the viewer into this world, and it will truly feel like comics come to life. And because of the fact that this is a universe that aims to take itself seriously while still embracing the fantastical, it shouldn't feel campy or stupid. So you can still have that dark and gritty tone that makes Batman who he is, but simultaneously still embrace what the fans truly love about Batman's unique lore and mythos.
The next thing that the DCU needs for Batman is to focus on his intellect and detective skills. Batman is in the upper echelon of intelligence within DC. He's depicted as the second smartest character within DC. So instead of just focusing on his detective work like we saw in The Dark Knight and The Batman, we should see Batman as an all-encompassing force for intelligence. Batman's technology has been most of the reason why he's able to solve crimes within the live-action movies so far. However, Batman should not need to use technology all of the time. Through just looking at clues in a crime scene, Batman is able to piece together in his brain what is happening. So when we get scenes like in The Dark Knight where he's analyzing the bullet casings with his technology, he should be the one recalling his knowledge on ballistics, figuring this out on the fly. And speaking on Batman's technology, we have not seen in live action Batman creating this tech. Although Batman Begins is a great depiction of Batman's gadgets, it's led to the horrible misconception that Lucius Fox in Wayne Tech is just supplying Batman with this gear. But what many people don't actually know is Batman himself is responsible for the designs of majority of the tech made at Wayne Tech. And not just Batman, Bruce Wayne himself sits there and designs this technology. So when we see Batman faced up against a threat within the DCU, we should be seeing him actively designing technology to fight those villains. Or even if there's just downtime in the cave when he's interacting with other characters, he should be doing something like working on his gadgets. But what's really important is that you show him using this in the field. Justice League needs to teleport somewhere, Batman should be making the teleport. The Justice League needs gadgets or a power armor to go up against a big threat. Make Batman be the one who designs it and gives it to them. And moving back away from technology for a second, in the field we should see Batman using his vast knowledge to apply it to different scenarios. For example, when Spider-Man was using trigonometry to determine where he should shoot his webs in No Way Home, Batman should be doing things like this when thrust into elaborate scenarios. For example, when Batman had to slow a plane coming in on Gotham, Batman made the calculations in his head on the fly to slow the plane and redirect it. And a great way to showcase this intelligence is by comparing it to other characters. Other great minds like Lex Luthor and Mr. Terrific, two characters already confirmed for the DCU, Batman should have direct encounters with them where they're compared to each other, whether or not them be tasked with the same thing and then they have to figure out different ways to go about it and one is superior to the other, or if we see direct comparisons with their technology. All of this would give an accurate depiction of just how intelligent and capable Batman is.
Next up, we got to talk about writing good dynamics within the Bat family as a whole. Batman should have different and specific dynamics within the Bat family for different people. For example, he should view Nightwing as his greatest success, but that doesn't mean the two of them can't have disagreements. He should have distrust for someone like Azrael, and over time, Jean should prove himself and gain that trust. Bruce should have a unique dynamic between Cass Kane and Jason Todd just because they have such different philosophies when it comes to crime fighting, and so on and so forth. Additionally, we don't need to see Batman treating his proteges like children. He has known many of these guys for years, so he should have trust in their ability and their competence. Also, we don't need to see that repetitive trend of trying to make Batman think he doesn't need his family. It's fine for a single arc, but having Batman learn that lesson again and again makes his character so much worse.
Another thing that we desperately need for the DCU Batman is for them to expand on Batman's martial prowess, lore, and training. This one is especially important because out of all the live-action Batman adaptations that we've gotten, none of them even come close to how skilled comic Batman is supposed to be. The closest representation we've gotten is probably Michael Keaton's Batman in The Flash and Ben Affleck's Batman in the warehouse scene, but outside of those two scenes, it's not even close, and even those scenes, in my opinion, aren't even close. Batman is a character who in comics pretty consistently takes on hundreds of opponents, whether that be hundreds of ninjas, hundreds of soldiers, hundreds of criminals. Like, Batman just fights hundreds of people, so much so that it's verbatim stated that not even 1,000 League of Assassins members could defeat Batman in a hand-to-hand combat exchange. And that says something because every single League of Assassins member is a master of every known martial art. Now you may be wondering, how is Batman able to do all of this? And that's because of his crazy martial arts training that he receives in the comics. In live action, the only movie that's come close to showcasing his actual martial training is Batman Begins. But even in that film, we don't actually know what he's learning. Sure, we see him train with Ra's al Ghul, but they don't go in depth. What is he learning? How many martial arts is he learning? In the comics, he's a master of every single martial art, even some alien martial arts. I think that in the DCU, especially since they're introducing Damian Wayne in the League of Assassins, this is the perfect opportunity to give flashback scenes, maybe explaining Batman's martial training, go over all the martial arts that he knows. Is he a master of all martial arts? Is he a master of alien martial arts, etc., etc.? So that way, when we see Batman doing crazy things, we know is because he's that skilled. And speaking of Batman doing those crazy things, as I mentioned earlier, he's able to easily take on hundreds of opponents in the comics. We need to see that in live action. There should be fight scenes where Batman is severely outnumbered and he's able to easily dominate whoever his opposers are in hand-to-hand combat without the use of gadgets. He is a martial artist at his core. We need to see that in live action. And no, please, for the love of God, we don't need grounded martial arts. Have Batman actually jumping in the air, doing fucking somersaults, cartwheels, like have him doing backflips, have him look like a ninja, have him actually be powerful. You could also showcase this against other highly skilled fighters in the verse. For example, characters like Deathstroke, Bane, Lady Shiva, Ra's al Ghul. All of these characters should be extremely skilled and fight fantastically. Like, it should be like martial arts is their superpower. Like, all of their fight scenes should look like Ip Man fight scenes, but on steroids, because of the fact that these are all characters that have trained themselves to either peak human or are just straight up superhuman, like Bane and Deathstroke. And this doesn't just stop at Batman. Once again, every Bat family member needs to be in this tier of fighting, and every Bat family member needs to have their own unique fighting style. For example, Nightwing should obviously be way more acrobatic than the other Bat family members when he's fighting, and he should also use the eskrima sticks to his advantage. Batman should still be very acrobatic, but he's more of a bruiser. Tim Drake should be more of a battle IQ merchant, and he should be trying to outsmart his opponent more so than overpower them. And Damian Wayne should be fast, agile, and deadly. So please, no more grounded Batman fight scenes in the DCU. Save that for the Reevesverse and Pattinson. Please give us fantastical Batman comic accurate fight scenes.
This next point kinda ties into the last one I spoke about, but please make sure Batman has good dynamics with other characters in the wider DCU. For instance, give him that brotherly bond he has with Superman, and do that by making them the same age so that Superman can also maintain that bond with other members of the Batman mythos. Some people think that just because Batman is on his 4th Robin, that means he needs to be in his 40s to 50s, but that's just blatantly false. Batman's history before Damian Wayne can be condensed down to around 10 years, so Bruce can be at least in his early 30s when Batman Brave and the Bold starts. More than just Superman, please write Batman to have a unique dynamic with other heroes within the DC universe. We as the audience should be able to tell who Batman likes, doesn't like, simply tolerates, or even has feelings for, without it being directly said to us. And finally, we should have Batman be universally respected. Even though Batman's a human, he's consistently looked at as one of the most dangerous and capable people on the planet. And that should be showcased heavily within the DCU.
Next up on the list, and this point is kind of echoed throughout the video already, but don't make Batman weak or grounded in this universe. This is a universe in which Kryptonians fly around shooting lasers out of their eyes, aliens exist, gods exist, monsters exist. Batman does not need to be grounded and set in reality. Yes, we understand that Batman is a human character, and part of what makes him cool is the fact that he is human, but part of what also makes him cool is the fact that he's human and he does impossible shit. A way that they can do this is by showcasing Batman's physical prowess. For example, Batman in his first year is literally easily kicking through trees. Yes, no human in real life is doing that. But again, guys, this is not real life. Batman is a fictional character. That is what makes him cool. Do not take that away from him just because we're getting it in live action. You know how fucking cool it would be to actually see Batman be that strong in live action? See Batman pulling helicopters out of the fucking sky with his bat rope. See Batman beating up metahumans like Solomon Grundy, Amygdala, Killer Croc, Clayface, swapping hands with Justice League level threats like Darkseid, Calabac, etc, etc. Like, guys, we're talking about a character who in the comics can use his martial arts ability to judo slam Supergirl, a fucking Kryptonian. Now granted, Andy Muschietti is directing Brave and the Bold, and he did have Michael Keaton Batman moving crazy against the Kryptonians in the Flash movie, so hopefully we get more of that. But seriously, it's about time we get the Batman that we see in comics and animation in live action. Another thing that can also add to the mythical element of Batman is having other characters question Batman's humanity. Having characters see Batman move so fast or hit so hard that they wonder to themselves, is this guy actually a fucking human or does he have some type of superpower? And again, if you showcase Batman's training in universe, it would make perfect sense as to why he's able to do the things he's able to do. We should be seeing several nods to the Tibetan monks in this universe. The Tibetan monks are some of the most broken martial arts teachers in the DC universe because they have Batman doing the most absolutely asinine shit you could ever think of. And this is the case in both animation and in comics, but it's just never been brought to live action. And again, as I keep saying, this should not just end at Batman. This should also go with his villains. So far, they're doing a really good job. Dr. Phosphorus was fucking epic in Creature Commandos. Clayface was also epic and he looks really powerful, but the rest of them need to be on the same path. Bane, Deathstroke, Mr. Freeze, Killer Croc, all these villains, Man-Bat, they all need to be extremely powerful, and it needs to make sense for Batman to be that strong. He needs to be going up against strong threats as well. All of the characters that I just named have either superhuman physicals or gear that give them superhuman physicals. There should be no reason why these characters should be portrayed as weak or regular people in live action. And members of the Bat family should also follow suit in being strong and capable. Dick Grayson should be just below Batman. If we get Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael, he should be freakishly strong like he is in the comics. Red Hood should be capable, Tim Drake, Damian, etc, etc.
Moving on to the next requirement, Batman needs to have unique dynamics with his villains. Batman has arguably the most iconic rogues gallery out of every comic book character. The reason for this is their unique character flaws and motivations. Batman needs to deal with them all differently and interact with them differently according to what makes them unique. Being a symbol for hope and justice, Batman should always be trying to rehabilitate and help these villains. This is a veteran Batman we're dealing with. This isn't his first encounter with any of these guys. He knows them on a personal level and he's trying to achieve what's best for them. Knowing that Clayface just wants to fulfill a personal vendetta, Batman should be appealing to the fact that vengeance is not the answer. Or when he fights Two-Face, he should be appealing to the good man that Harvey once was, which should be a complete 180 from when he's fighting characters like Bane and Joker, because the relationship Batman has with these villains is fundamentally different. These villains need to challenge Batman to some degree. Depending on the villain, they should challenge him physically, mentally, in terms of preparation. They need to do something to qualify them as valid threats. This way, Batman's not slamming them in the beginning of the movie, and Batman's not getting beat up the whole time and then he has to pull something out of his ass at the end to win. Each villain should attack Batman in a unique way, which is what makes them such a valid threat. Bane would be his comparable tactical mind, Joker would be his unpredictableness, Riddler would be his intellect, so on and so forth. But each of these things would need to be fully explored and fleshed out, hence making them so powerful. When leaving the theater, what needs to be abundantly clear is that both Batman and his villains were just like that. The reason the casual fanbase thinks Batman's ass is because they assume villains like Bane are just a strong guy and Joker's just a clown with a knife. Making both them and Batman powerful does nothing but benefit the story. Everyone's more developed, everyone's more powerful, and the stakes are higher.
Next up, we need to be shown the similarities and differences between Bruce Wayne and Batman. As both, Bruce should prioritize helping others, whether it's philanthropy, crime fighting, or instilling hope in the people of Gotham. This should be Batman and Bruce Wayne's top priority. Obviously, the Mask and the Man have different ways of achieving this, but maintaining Bruce's unwavering faith that Gotham can be saved should be showcased. Also, please don't do that corny shit where Bruce thinks that he's the Mask and not the true man. That shit shouldn't be a question for this far into his career.
Another major thing that we need is for Batman to not be sidelined against big threats. What I mean by this is when the Justice League comes up against threats like Darkseid, Brainiac, etc., Batman should not just be a tactical leader who's just barking commands from the Watchtower. He should be up close and personal in the front lines with the rest of the Justice League, swapping hands with those characters. Not only does Batman have the martial prowess, physical prowess, and tactical ability to hang on the front lines, but Batman also has his own gear that's specifically made for these situations. When Batman is in scenarios where he's heavily outgunned, he usually resorts to things like his explosive batarangs, his shot gauntlets, his tasers, his hardening foam that's meant to restrain characters in the same tier as Superman. On top of that, putting Batman in those types of situations and seeing him shine and thrive would also showcase to the audience why Batman, as a human, is still a well-respected member of the Justice League and why he's a part of the Trinity. This again would also showcase how powerful Batman's mind is because of his ability to create tech that can harm these godlike characters. I also feel like putting Batman in these situations is important for his character just from a fundamental standpoint because of the fact that Batman is supposed to represent the notion that a man can do whatever he puts his mind to. If he works as hard as possible, if he's as determined as possible, he will be able to do the impossible, and I feel like that at its core is what Batman's character is supposed to represent, overcoming all odds, even if you're at a severe disadvantage. The story of Batman is about overcoming obstacles, and there's no better way to show Batman overcoming obstacles than to put him up against godlike characters he has no business fighting against.
And the last thing that the DCU Batman needs is a supporting cast that is competent. This should go without saying, but in recent comic books and Batman media as a whole, Batman's supporting cast is made to look worse so Batman looks better in comparison to them. That doesn't mean that Batman shouldn't be shown better than other characters. However, when you make those other characters look worse, it doesn't make Batman more impressive, they just suck. When Batman's not around, other characters should be able to carry themselves. We should not fear for the Bat family's lives if Batman isn't present to save them. Even though Gordon is just a police officer and not equipped to deal with the superpowered threats within Gotham, we should still see him take out henchmen when he's helping Batman in encounters. Characters like Nightwing shouldn't be giving superficial glaze to Batman to make him look better. We should see Nightwing and the Robins and Cass Kane all do crazy martial arts and crime fighting feats, so when Batman does stuff that's deemed more impressive, we know that all of the Bat family is just like that. And when it comes to having these supporting characters need to be saved, that isn't a problem. However, when these situations arise, they need to be a valid threat that genuinely defeats them and poses a real threat to them. For example, if Deathstroke comes in and he's beating up the Bat family and they need Batman's help, that makes sense. We know Batman's power level, we know their power level, and we know Deathstroke. But if they're barely holding off a fleet of League of Assassins foot soldiers and they need Batman to save them, That's a problem. This applies equally to things like intelligence and detective work. Don't make Batman intelligent by making other characters stupid. It doesn't do anything but ruin the consistency and enjoyment of seeing multiple powerful and intelligent characters interact.
With all that being said though, that's going to end this video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you guys want to see more content relating to the DCU or MCU or just cinematic superhero universes in general, just let us know. Hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.